This is Misty.
And this is Kristi.
You're listening to
Misty and Kristi. We are coming to you today live from downtown Plano, Texas, at the studios of Golden Light Creative, where the executive director and creative director, Dorley Q, has graciously invited us to broadcast from there today. If you'd like more information on Golden Light Creative, by the way, I suggested, I would go to goldenlightcreative.com or facebook.com/goldenlightcreative.
Today we're going to jump right into the topic at hand, and we're going to be addressing the Ray Rice incident. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Ray Rice and the particular situation that's all over news media and social media, Ray Rice was a former NFL player. I'm saying former because he has since been suspended. He played for the Baltimore Ravens. He stood at 5'8". He weighed 206 pounds, and yes, he was a trained athlete. He viciously assaulted his then fiance, Janay Palmer Rice, and is now really just created angst among the society. We have two different schools of thought. If you would like to join in the conversation, please follow us at Misty and Kristi on Twitter, #Break the Silence, or on Facebook, Misty and Kristi. For those of you, again, who are unfamiliar with the situation, we're going to give you a brief history. Back in February, Mr. Rice viciously attacked his, at the time, fiance while in an Atlantic City casino hotel. They were in the elevator when he knocked her ass out.
Cold.
Then in March, he was indicted by the grand jury on charges of third-degree aggravated assault. And just kind of following battered women syndrome, the very next day after he was indicted, what happened, Kristen?
They got married.
That's correct. Janay and Ray married.
Dum, 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 dum.
Then we're going to fast forward to the summer in July. And in July, the commissioner of the NFL handed down a 2-game suspension, which would begin at the beginning of the 2014 football season. Fast forwarding again, the entire video was released via TMZ, and social media and news media had a massive outcry because it distinctly shows Ray Rice in the confines of an elevator, close-fisted, hit his, like I said, then fiance, now wife, Janay Palmer. So now we're in September. And then, Kristen, do you want to address the September findings?
September 8th, TMZ actually released the entire footage, which, as you were just talking about, shows Mr. Rice knocking her out cold, unconscious on the bottom of an elevator floor. At that point, the Baltimore Ravens then terminated Rice's contract, and shortly after that incident, NFL Commissioner announced that Rice had been suspended from the NFL indefinitely.
But here goes, people. What happened yesterday? In light of his indefinite suspension for knocking out Janay Palmer,
cold,
what has the Players Union done? They have filed an appeal.
Indeed.
They're saying that, in fact, he cannot be punished twice for the same incident. But here's the deal. There's some discrepancy. The NFL is saying they did not have the full video. However, you have an officer who is saying, yes, in fact, the NFL was provided with the footage. We, the public, we don't know. What we do know is we have seen the footage. We have seen what happened in the footage and in the elevator. And still, here's the funny thing. We have become an extremely desensitized society. We are currently polarized with two different schools of thought. In reaction to what is occurring, you have the one school of thought that says, hey, Janay was berating him, Janay spit on him, Janay was taunting him, Janay lunged at him. So Ray, that's right, Ray acted within his means of protecting himself.
It was defense, it was self-defense.
And knocked her ass out. And then you have the school of thought that says, a man should never hit a woman. So many of you may think, oh, you are hardcore feminists here. You're going to stand up for women's rights. No, that's not what's happening here. We're standing up for the rights of human beings. Human beings meaning you don't put your hands on another person. If you need to protect yourself, that's one thing. If you need to defend yourself, that's one thing. If you need to restrain someone from harming you, that's one thing. But did, in fact, Ray Rice feel as though he was being threatened?
I don't know. I think you touched on a very touchy subject on that. If a burglar is coming at you with a knife and an ATM machine trying to get your wallet, yeah, defend yourself if you feel need. But if something that you quote unquote love and trust and put a ring on your hand, you should never be laying hands on that person. And that goes for a man and a woman relationship, a woman-woman relationship, or a man-man relationship.
And I think here's another component of this particular debate, if you want to call it a debate. Again, Ray Rice is a trained athlete. He has worked day in and day out to ensure his body is above par. You're talking about a man who has been trained to deliver hits as well receive hits.
It is his job to be in his top physical shape every single day of every single year.
And I'm not saying that sets him apart, but in essence, it does set him apart to the majority of society. What I'm saying is he's in tip-top shape, he's strong, he's capable, he's agile. So even if, let's just say worst case scenario, Janay slapped him, spit on him, knocked him, hit him as hard as she could. They were in an elevator. What could Ray Rice have done? Let's say they're traveling from the 15th floor down to the lobby. He could have hit 12, and those elevator doors would have opened, offering him an opportunity of escape in the event that he felt threatened. That's not what he did. What he did was he utilized destructive conflict measures, and he put it into a me versus you perspective, and he took it upon himself to, instead of escaping or walking away from the conflict, he chose not only to walk in to the conflict, but to, in fact, close fist punch Janay. And here's the deal for those of you who haven't seen the footage, or those of you who can't stomach to watch the footage.
If you want to, just Google TMZ video and it pops right up.
After he let's first talk about when they entered the elevator. There definitely was some conflict occurring in the hallway. We're able to see that she said something to him, he said something to her. She enters the elevator first. Ray then follows Janay into the elevator. Janay is standing against the wall of the elevator, her right shoulder embedded into the wall of the elevator, with her left shoulder tilted inward towards her cheek, and her head was lowered a bit. At which point, when Ray enters behind her, he says something very close to her face. I think it's important to review her body language at that moment. We can tell simply from her body language that either A, she had witnessed abuse growing up, or B, this was not their first rodeo in a conflicted situation like this. And as I said, it begins to escalate in the elevator. At no point does Ray choose the option of defusing and de-escalation, pushing another floor button to get out. Instead, he chooses to knock her ass out cold.
Laying on the floor.
Let's talk about that. The elevator doors open, and what we're able to see is Janay Palmer, at the time was her last name, Janay Palmer, with the top portion of her body laid out in the hotel lobby floor, while the bottom portion of her body is laid out face down still in the elevator floor, with her skirt pulled up above her butt, essentially.
Her lady parts were showing.
While Ray, the father of her daughter,
kicks her,
nudges, we'll use the word nudge. We'll say he nudged her with the front portion of his foot.
Oh, he goes back to grab her shoe because she lost her shoe.
2 to 3 times in her side. Now, here's another part. Her head is, like I said, laying face down. The elevator door isn't held open by Ray Rice.
It's held open by her dangling legs.
and by a hotel staff member who chooses to kneel down by Janay and chooses to hold the elevator door open to ensure it doesn't close on her. Ray Rice never attempted to render aid.
No, the female, I think it looks like a security guard female, was help propping her up, and it looks like she's trying to say, "Are you okay?"
So now that we've addressed the particular incident, now that we've given you the timeline, we would love to hear from you, again, at Misti and Kristi on Twitter or on Facebook, Misti and Kristi, hashtag break the silence. I think at this point it's important to address the social outcry from both schools of thought. It's difficult as a woman myself to read comments from other women who are justifying Ray Rice's actions. It's almost baffling and in fact appalling that any woman would say that it is okay and or tolerable for a man to hit a woman. And I'm going to use an analogy that, let's say we're all observing a school-wide or district-wide assembly where you have now intermingled high school and middle school. So you have seniors and you have 7th graders all at the same assembly. Let's say that a 7th grader is spitting spitballs, calling someone a name.
Taunting him, maybe?
Taunting him, making fun of his jeans, calling him stupid, calling him heinous names, who knows? And let's say that this 12th grader in return chooses to address the 7th grader by knocking their ass out. I would venture to say that the majority of us would find that inappropriate. Not so much, it could be a male student on a male student. It could be a male student on a female student.
Or
the issue isn't really, at this point, gender to me. The issue is size and ability. This was never equal combat.
No.
This was never a level playing field to engage in such behaviors. I'm not by any way condoning any form of violence, but what I'm saying is when you have women who are defending the actions of a man who very evidently could have protected himself by several means outside of closed fist punching Janay Palmer.
Like not get in the elevator.
Simple. He could have restrained her. He could have held her back. I mean, we all saw the Jay-Z Solange thing in the elevator.
Yeah.
Jay-Z never struck her.
No.
Jay-Z never raised a hand to her. So we can all laugh at him and call him a bitch, as so many people have done, but the reality was he was a man. He knew if he put his hands on her, he would step out of the guise of being a man, and at that point, he would become an assailant. What Ray Rice was is he became an assailant. And what's disgusting to me is that people in our society are asking us to implore empathy for Ray Rice. They're acting as though somewhere along the lines he acted within his rights. I'm confused.
What rights were those?
I don't know. And to read on social media, any woman utilizing her fingers to type in a response that if you step in the ring with the man, prepare to be hit. And we even had a follower who said something along the lines like, I have a sharp tongue. There were times in my life that I would have deserved to be cold-cocked.
I think we're friends because we have sharp tongues.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to cold cock you out.
No, and I think that's a problem. You know, and I think when we think of life and we think of situations, and especially when you're in intimate partner relationships, and here's the deal. A lot of us also come from the idea that, hey, what happens within a home stays within a home, and that certain things do happen within intimate partner relationships, and that is true. But violence isn't one of those. And when we start as a society accepting it and condoning it and teaching our daughters and sons that it is okay and it is tolerable and it is an appropriate reaction,
the cycle keeps going.
The cycle will only continue.
Because a rational, clear thinking, healthy individual doesn't wake up and say, gosh, my morning meetings got canceled. Damn it, I think I'm going to go knock the crap out of my wife this morning.
A rational, healthy thinking male doesn't say, hey, sweetie, Your skirt's a little bit too short. Let me knock your ass out for that. A rational thinking female doesn't say, hey honey, a strange text message came across your cell phone. Let me spit on you for that. So I think it's safe to say when we're addressing this issue, they were both in the wrong. No one is saying that in the event Janay did spit on him or in the event Janay did lunge at him. No one's saying here that she was right. No one's saying that either. What we're saying is his force was excessive. He chose to act as an assailant. She then turned into a victim and he viciously assaulted her.
But then can we say that they made the choice based on they do what they know?
I think that's safe to say. In this instance, I don't know Ray Rice's background. I don't know his history. I don't know what home life Janay Palmer was exposed to growing up. But what I know is I'm raising a daughter, and in no way, shape, or form am I going to tell her that it is okay for a man to ever hit her. On the contrary, and I think this is a pro that's come out of this particular incident. It's opened up the lines of communication. Society is now becoming aware. We're seeing it in our living rooms, and we're able now to converse with our children, with our families about what is occurring, our coworkers, our peers. And what I've told my daughter is, if you hit someone, be it male or female, be prepared to be hit back. That's not condoning
Absolutely not.
The act of domestic violence. It's training her to think, hey, that guy's a little bigger than me. I probably shouldn't hit him. On the reverse of that, I also raised 2 boys. And what I've told my boys, you never, under any circumstance, strike a woman. Ever. I don't care what the hell she's doing. You do not put your hands on a woman. And let's just say I don't even like her as a mom. Let's just say I don't like the girl. But here's the deal. My son's well-being and my son's freedom is worth a lot more than his pride at the moment.
Absolutely.
So even if he's within his, let's say, right, because let's say she's coming at him crazy, and let's say, okay, it would make sense for him to grab her or push her.
It would make sense for him to walk out the door and get in his car and leave.
It makes more sense to say, I do not want to be part of an unhealthy relationship anymore. There are 7 continents on this planet. There are people who have lowered their standards so far to partake in unhealthy relationships because they're afraid to be alone. I'm speaking now to both those who victimize and those who have fallen victim. Both of you in this instance are victims. You're victims of the cycle of abuse. You have lowered your standard to the level that you believe what you're experiencing is love or commitment or being loyal. If that's not the most ridiculous pile of shit I've ever heard, and if I hear one more female say that it's okay or it's tolerable,
it's never okay,
or a man or vice versa. Change the roles. There are women who also commit acts of violence. There are women who also do instigate situations like this. We're not saying that this is a total male issue or a total female issue. What we're saying is, if you find yourself in a situation or a relationship that brings out the worst in you,
get out.
And acting out in a violent manner is in fact bringing out the worst in you, or neurologically training your mind to believe
he loves me.
He loves me. And it's, and I think the hardest part for this is the fact that Janay married him, and the fact that she's standing by his side. We can guarantee she's assuming responsibility.
Absolutely.
In no way, shape, or form.
She feels, or he has done something, or had said something to her to place the blame
or family
on her.
Let's talk about family. Extended family can also play the part in when victims stay.
He's paying mama's mortgage, sister's mortgage,
and that's a speculation. We don't know that, but the cycle of abuse basically indicates and has shown us that you have people within families, because that's the cycle they experience. And that's what mom went through, and that's what my aunt went through, and my grandma went through it. This is what happens. This is not what happens. Back in the day, it did happen because people didn't speak out.
No.
We kept family issues at home. We kept intimate partner issues within the 4 walls of our home. People suffered in silence.
You don't talk about your feelings. You keep it locked up. You keep it at home. When it happens at home, stays at home. You don't talk about it.
That's the way we were trained to think. The reality is that, again, another level of bullshit. You do not suffer in silence. This is not love. This is not what a healthy relationship looks like. It is not. I would rather be in a corner with a parakeet in my hand, keeping me company, than in a home suffering every day because I maybe slammed the silverware drawer too hard, or I forgot to cook dinner, or I'm too late, or I'm at Kroger for a little bit too long, or I can't get my 9-month-old to stop crying during a football game. Or let's reverse it. For a man, I've come home too late. A coworker who's a female's called my phone, and now my wife's going off. I would rather sit alone with a parakeet in my hand keeping me company than deal with the stress and chaos and internal conflict that destructive conflict illuminates in your life when you choose to be in unhealthy relationships.
There's conflict in every relationship, whether it's a friendship with your best friend or your spouse or your partner or your parents or any part of your family. There's always going to be some kind of conflict. But you have to learn how to make better choices on how to deal with the conflict.
You have to count the loss. And as a person, and I am someone like Kristi said, we have sharp tongues. We're people who can bring out the worst in others. And we've learned as adults to cultivate that, to change that, to utilize those. Those are actually strengths in being passionate.
It's a work in progress.
It definitely is every day. And at times you may find that you slip back into your old ways. The reality is, like Maya Angelou said, when you learn better, you do better. When you learn the skills, when you hear something like this, when you see something like what's been displayed now in the news media, you don't run to justify your own negative actions. You allow what you've seen, what you've read, what you've learned to help you evolve as a human being. Everyone deserves to live a healthy life. Everyone deserves to live a safe life. Everyone deserves to live a flourishing life. Living in chaos is not healthy.
No.
Living in violence is not healthy. Living in constant destructive conflict is not healthy. And when you trick yourself, when you train your mind to believe that it is healthy, and that's what a relationship looks like, you have really shortchanged yourself as a person.
Absolutely. And again, wouldn't you agree that if somebody who thinks living in chaos is normal, because maybe they came from chaos?
Absolutely. They know that's all they know. But we're here to say today, this is not a feminist movement. This is not a male-centered movement. This is not a male-bashing movement. This is not something speaking out against the NFL. This is enlightening you.
This is a just be nice, don't be a dick movement.
This is simply saying, be healthy. What occurred and what we're seeing in the news media right now is not right. There's no justification for the level of violence that was used in this particular issue. I don't care what someone says to you. I don't care what someone calls you. No, it's not right, but you can leave. You can walk away. You have escape options. Then there are those people, and this is another thing that bothers me. People are saying, well, she married him. She's stupid. She deserved what she gets.
No.
She is in the cycle of abuse. There is something called battered women syndrome. We don't know her history. We don't know Janay's history. We don't know Ray Rice's history. What we know is an altercation has now been laid before our feet. One that we cannot sit here and say is okay. We cannot justify the actions. We cannot train our children to believe this is okay. We cannot train the current teen males who are being raised without fathers and watching what Ray Rice did, and then them hear people say, they hear their grandmas or their aunts or their cousins who are all females say, hey, she deserved it. She stepped in the ring. She poked that hive and that honey was sweet. No, that's not what happens.
No.
Someone has to say, two unhealthy individuals entered into that elevator that day.
Yes.
One unhealthy individual was standing when the doors opened, and one unhealthy individual was laid out.
Was on the ground.
That's it. That's the reality. That's what I'm saying. There is no, he was right, she was wrong, she was right. There is none of that. There's the fact that this was a destructive conflict situation. We can almost pretty much assume it hasn't been the first because they've been together a while. They have a 2-year-old daughter. We can also assume their lives will forever be different. And we have people saying,
absolutely, yes.
Oh, well, the punishment has been hard that the NFL rendered. Let's talk about punishments. When you are a felon and or are indicted on felony charges in this country, regardless of what the felony is, your life changes.
Forever.
You are no longer as employable as you were previously. Your income level will drop. Why should he be different? The NFL was his employer.
And he had a felony charge.
Why is it that we're saying, hey, that felon over there, I'm not going to hire him. But now all of a sudden, well, the NFL should let him play. Why? That's his employer.
Yeah.
I don't understand how we're making excuses for Ray Rice. That we're saying, oh, he's a felon now, but I think that his income shouldn't be impacted. Well, really? Because there are other people who have incurred felonies that didn't have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in the bank. They barely had the next paycheck in the bank, and immediately their family was impacted. Why should he be different? That's another component here.
Because he's an NFL football player and their fantasy football might be jacked up, and Madden 214, the video game, they might have to rewrite the code on that.
Let's get real. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It is an epidemic that has impacted and impeded this country for decades. And thank God, we are now at the place where we're speaking out about it. Thank God.
I think the video is disgusting, but I am immensely thrilled, for lack of better terminology, that it's out there so people who aren't aware of this situation or aware of the cycle can actually see what happens.
Conversations are occurring.
Which is the best thing that could come out of this.
Conversations are occurring. Communication about domestic violence, its ramifications, what it looks like. Sometimes it's hard for us to see our own situation, but when you step outside and you look from the balcony, when you sit there and look through a different lens and you see this occurring in someone else's relationship, you then may see the similarities in your own. And maybe that's what some people need to see. This is not healthy. There is a better life. There are more opportunities. Someone's fly-ass mouth is not worth your freedom.
No.
It's not worth being held captive in our penal system or having to go through a massive financial legal battle because someone said something to you who didn't like, or God forbid someone spit on you, or God forbid someone lunged at you, or God forbid someone insulted you and hurt your pride. Pride is not worth your freedom.
No, and I have done studies on this coming from the medical field that if you swallow your pride, you won't die from it.
There you go. And that's, I think, another really important fact here. What happened that day is Ray Rice could not let go of his pride. She pissed him off. We don't know what was said. I've not heard the audio.
I don't know if there's an audio version available, but
there are people who are saying that there is, because I've heard people say, now I don't know for fact, but I've heard people say, well, she said, is that the hardest you can hit? Well, he should have said, hell no. I knock people out every Sunday. No, I can hit it harder than this. What did he have to prove to her? He had nothing to prove to her.
He wanted to win.
He wanted to win.
He wanted to win an argument.
Hang on. Did he win? Oh, sure, he knocked her ass out. But did he lose?
No. Well, everybody lost. Everybody lost.
On that day, Ray Rice lost.
In his mind, no, he didn't lose.
But he had his reputation has been impacted. His employable status has been impacted. The reputation he will have in front of his daughter has been impacted. The respect that he may have had at that moment from Janay has been impacted. Ray Rice walked out of that elevator that day. Yeah, he won. He knocked her out.
And then in this day and age, that video is eternal.
Eternal.
And someday, that daughter is going to see that video because somebody at school is going to show it to her. How is that going to change her life? How will that affect her for the next 70 years of her life?
Ray Rice altered the lives of, for sure, 3 people. His, Janay's, and their daughters. Indefinitely. Ray Rice has been rendered verdicts by the NFL that some people feel are too strict. Well, I feel him hitting Janay in that elevator that day was too steep. It was too strict. And another component of this is always responding retroactively to conflict is not productive.
No.
The NFL is now creating and implementing new policies and amending their old, outdated policy. I think I would like to applaud the commissioner on that.
For updating policies.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We have to give respect where respect is due. He's not dealt with something this strenuous before.
Now, maybe is it the first time it's because somebody actually got busted?
There you go.
Okay, well...
The I got caught apology.
Right, which is always so effective. Okay, fine. Maybe we're going to make an example out of this football player. Great. But again, it's something positive to come out of this. It opens up conversation, and Mr. NFL Commissioner has to say, we've got to do something about this. It's becoming a problem.
And it's hard for me to scrutinize his actions. It's hard. Now, I can say now if and when it's proven that he had the full tape, if and when that is proven that that the NFL had the full footage way back in March or February, I think then we can possibly render some insults toward the commissioner. But currently, what he's done, he attempted to be fair. I'm going to suspend you for 2 games. Full footage is out now, buddy. You close fist knocked her ass out. It's a little, we've got to render some harsher punishment at this point. And so I would applaud his efforts. I would applaud that they brought on now 4 executives to address the issues of domestic violence.
That are female.
That is a very big step forward. I think we can all agree on that. Again, another pro that came from this is we're talking about it. People are talking.
And in addition to just the domestic violence policies, he's also added things, and I'm gonna quote, regarding assault, battery, domestic violence, and sexual assault, that involved physical force will be subject to enhanced discipline.
So in that alone, we have to give respect and applause where due. And without a doubt, he's earned that. What Ray Rice has also earned? Nothing.
Well, he's going to have to change his name.
He's earned nothing. Let this be a warning to anyone who attempts to victimize that you are risking your freedom. Let this be a warning to anyone who stays in the cycle of abuse. You could lose your life. In the event you or someone you know has been or is currently a victim of domestic violence, the national hotline for domestic violence is 1-800-799-7233. Again, the number is 1-800-799-7233. If you would like to join in on the conversation or weigh in with your opinion, please do so at Misti and Kristi on Twitter, #BreakTheSilence, or on Facebook, Misti and Kristi.
And when you know better, you do better. So do better tomorrow, folks. Make it a great day.